The biggest problem with work is how our economy treats the people who do it. You might not agree and say, our society is very productive and it keeps many people employed. That is true. But if you look into it, our economic system consistently makes people who do work beholden to those who own wealth. Basically, those who have money can simply boss around those who don't and thus need to work. But here you might interject again and say that there are some laws and regulations that prevent companies from being abusive. Yes, but then workers must rely on those laws and regulations, which are legislated by politicians, who tend to have a very good relationship with people who have money. But you might also say it's really about education and skills. For example, I have a decent job because I study hard at school. Well, it might work for you for the moment, but there are mechanisms put in place to undermine your position. For example, there's a management philosophy called Taylorism, which breaks up complex enterprises into mechanical tasks that can be performed by cheap and skilled labor. Companies are then more than happy to outsource those jobs to places with a lot less labor protection. In this way, you will never be very secure in your position because it is always in danger. Because the system is designed to function that way. Well, you might also say, at least I get some cheap goods out of this process. When labor costs less, things cost less. Well, to some extent, you might save some money here and there, but the greatest gain goes to corporations. Moreover, as a society, we pay a lot for this type of production that constantly tries to cheat workers. We end up with things that are bad for our bodies, bad for the environment. And even if you don't care, these mass-produced commodities don't give us great satisfaction either, because they're made poorly and will be obsolete quickly. And if you have one of those coveted jobs that currently are still around, in a sense that they compensate you somewhat monetarily, ask yourself when no one's around, are they really meaningful to society? Do they maximize your strengths and interests? Do they speak to your dreams and aspirations and give you all the freedom and possibility to be your best? So which part of this whole thing makes any sense? People who do work are the ones who make everything happen. And yet we structure society so they're constantly made to be dependent, precarious, and struggling. Not only that, they're forced to work so much that they have very little time to contribute to communities, to think for themselves, or engage in politics as active citizens, while humanity is being threatened because we actually overproduce. Therefore, the key to a fair, just, prosperous, and sustainable society is the way that it treats its workers. Now, I have no problem admitting that all the so-called socialist countries also did not give workers power. For example, jobs were assigned to them and the terms were dictated. How can the most valuable people, the workers, not even have the freedom to decide what they want to do? So for a better society, we need to think about how to elevate workers rather than straddle them with dependencies, so that those who work the hardest do not feel most desperate. The core of all this is a difficult problem of decision making. We need to produce things, we need to get people to work, but who should make all the decisions? Capitalism chooses the very simple solution. Whoever has money makes all these decisions. But that is neither optimal nor fair. While it is not easy for workers in society to come together and decide what's really good for all of us, we should not avoid what's right just because it's a bit messy and complicated. It's like just because democracy is not fast or unanimous, the solution is not to introduce a dictator, although it might feel very tempting at times. Learning how to come together and make economic decisions in an egalitarian and collective fashion that takes multiple interests and collective well-being into account is what's most missing in our knowledge repertoire. Yet people who complain it's impossible are also those who haven't really tried. Scholars and experts are good at defending the status quo by telling you why the current system works or how to patch it up, because they do not devote an equal amount of time on researching for an alternative. The future needs to start with new schemes of decision-making in economics. It needs to start when you and I are determined to find an answer and start talking about it all the time, as if it is the most urgent thing to do. Because when we do not come up with a plan, the opponents will tell you what's just, amazing, and good can never be. But that was always being said until people refused to believe it and start a brand new course. So let's do it again and build a society that truly honors those who work.